Hey, we're live. Welcome, everybody. I've got AJ or Sove here on the podcast with me tonight, and we'll just kind of wait for folks to hop on and join. So,
Hello.
hey, welcome, Sove. We'll get to how you prefer to be called here in a second, but I'm super excited, you guys, talking about Oathbringer or Oathbreaker. I bought the book and it arrived in time to talk about it on the podcast. It is a very like sexy looking book, and also like the story. I can't wait to talk about it.
That's really all I wanted from anyone talking about my book is to describe how sexy it is. So
Yeah, right. Yeah. The spice level is like, one spice. It's not a spicy book, but it is fun. Hi,
the
Flame
series
Lancer.
isn't over. We'll see where it goes.
Dun dun dun. There are vampires, so you never know. Hi, Flame Lancer. Welcome.
Welcome.
Yeah. We'll give everybody another minute or two. So let's talk about how you got on the show. Not this. You took an unusual path to Beyond Quests. We actually have. I just want to shout out to Alicia. We have a mutual friend.
She's a
And
very cool person.
yeah, very cool. One of my favorites. And if you follow me on TikTok, you'll probably see Alicia and I at the park doing author talk.
Hi, Alicia.
Yeah, there she is. Yeah, and Alicia's been just talking about you for the last year about how, we like write and like talk, like we got a lot of similarities we need to meet. I think you and I were just talking about Dragon Con. I'm pretty sure she encouraged both of us to meet at Dragon Con, and neither one of us took her up on it.
I'm sure that a lot of people gave me very good advice over the
Uh-huh.
last probably 5 to 10 years that I haven't internalized. So
Yeah, same.
I'm just surprised Alicia hasn't spent the entire time talking about me, complaining that I haven't brought anything new to our writer group anytime recently.
Yeah, Alicia, you need to get on that. Yeah. But yeah, so the two of you are in a writing group that meets online, and Alicia and I met in a writing group that met in person, so it all worked out. But when I started doing Beyond Quest, she was just like, it's finally time. You have to go reach out to Sove, and yeah, so it was fun. It was good. I'm just glad you said yes.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind. It's like I haven't done a lot of this, and I figure it's good to do. And also, someone, one of our mutuals, directed me to you, so I just didn't really see any reason not to try it out.
Yeah.
This is my first time. I guess that's not true. I've done a live thing like this once, where a narrator in a Discord read a chapter of my book. He was doing it for a bunch of different authors in the space. And so I was there listening to him narrate my book, which is very, big stage fright for me, and then asked me questions and stuff in front of like 10 or 15 people. So that's the only other time I've done something like this.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you for being brave. I actually listened to the audio of your book. It's Raphael Corkill,
Yes.
and it's produced by Podium. Yeah. And I will say, like, Raphael's voice is just very distinctive. The audio just kind of rumbles. It really fits the main character's energy. It's just you get this like rumbly, kind of manly manly narration. It's very fitting. Did you, when you were working with Podium on the narrator, did you choose Raphael? Did you have much of a choice, or did they do the choosing for you?
So they sent me 3 different potential narrators who did auditions. They took like a 5-minute snippet. It was the same scene for each of them. They're like, these are 3 of our people that we usually have like do like quote unquote heroic fantasy. They did like a 5-minute chapter, which was the conversation actually in the castle between Alken and Katrin. They all did that same scene because they wanted 2 characters there, kind of show me both voices back and forth. And they were all good, but Raphael just like kind of knocked it out of the park with both my protagonist and then also with Katrin, who's a very important character to the whole series.
Yeah.
So it was kind of obvious as far as choices go. They actually encouraged me to pick him. That wasn't really part of my sort of decision-making factor.
Yeah.
But it was because I requested or I told them that it wasn't a big deal if they couldn't do it. But I told them I imagined like a soft Welsh accent for Alken. And since he's the main character, it's all in his POV, his voice was the most important to do. And turns out Raphael was actually born in Wales and was really excited apparently to be able to do his native accent for the main character. So like I could hear it when I was listening to it. And I was like, I mean, I listened to it with a couple of my friends and all three of us were like, yeah, I mean, that's the pick right there.
Love it. Well, one more comment before we get into kind of the description of the book, but Jen is saying that they love the cover, and I think that's one of the things that also sets your just, the book art on this cover is amazing. Can you tell us a little bit about your artist?
Yeah, so I'll be honest, I know his real name, but I cannot remember it off the top of my head. He's
What's his handle?
Tefui. It's Tofui, I think. For anyone who wants to look him up, we can maybe like slap that in the chat or something.
Yeah.
He's from Brazil. I found him on the Starving Artist subreddit when I was first starting in web fiction. I wanted cover art. And this was the original piece he did for me. And it got touched up by Podium, like they brightened the colors because he has kind of a darker color style, just to make it pop a little bit more. But this is his original commission that he did for me. He's done a bunch since then. But yeah, the original one he did for me on Royal Road got adapted to the first book and turned out really awesome. He does great work. Everyone should go look at his ArtStation or Instagram because everything he does is incredible.
Yeah. Jen says these Brazilian artists know their stuff. My artist is also Brazilian. They've got it. Yeah. Yeah. This cover is really distinctive, and the style is just different. I love how our genres, you can play around with the style a little bit, and it's not just like automatically like, oh, that doesn't match the genre expectation. It's a little bit different, and that makes it distinctive. And I think that's a lesson maybe for authors when they're looking at artists and stuff is, sometimes it's worth taking a chance if it's just like, if it pops like this.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was I just wanted art that I liked, and I found this guy's art. It fit the tone that I was going for. He has kind of like a I guess like almost like tarot cards. There's a lot of his stuff is meant to resemble that. Did some album covers and stuff.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the main reason I like it is because it reminds me of a lot of old like 80s or early 90s paperback covers, where it's very stylized, almost kind of not cartoony, but like colorful and stuff like that. It doesn't look like, I didn't want anything that looks super gritty. I know that's common in the dark fantasy space, but
yeah, and I like the like engraved look to it, right? Too, it adds a little bit of depth to it without it being overwhelming, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And all of his stuff is like that. That halo the character has behind his head, that's kind of a common motif in all of Tefuyu's pieces.
Love his work. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. Did the original art piece have this frame around it as well, or was that added later?
Yes. That all of Tefuyu's art has some kind of frame. Usually, sometimes they're different. He plays around with different styles. Even the commissions he's done for me. The only thing that got added by Podium was they brightened the colors up a little bit, and then they added their logo there.
Nice.
So
that's fair. That's fair. All right. Well, let's talk about the book a little bit. I actually did a TikTok where I described this book as like stylistically, it's like the Dresden Files meets Diablo video game.
That's a fair way to describe it.
Yeah, these two worlds just kind of mash up, and it's funny because when I was listening to the book, I was really involved in the story. And it wasn't that Dresden Files connection didn't really like kick in for me until I got to the end, and just kind of how it ended and how the main character's kind of moving on, and like it's like this domino effect of like, this feels comfortable, like something stylistically that's like in the same kind of realm. But the world is very dark and mysterious, and we'll get into it, but it's called a dark fantasy adventure, and it's about a disgraced paladin who is cursed to roam this medieval, like post-apocalyptic world full of fae and demons. The tone, like I said, is very Jim Butcher-esque, while the setting is more of this like Diablo, like there's the church and they're kind of fighting the demons, but the church is corrupt. There's just a lot of that sort of parts to it, but there's also fae and ogres and all these forest creatures and ghosts, and it's a very lived in fantasy world. um, I found just in general your story was really well crafted, the setting and creatures just engaging. These aren't necessarily new monsters, but the world is like creepy and you get this full immersion sort of feel to it. And you get this sense that, and this is where the darkness comes in, that the world is really hard and that the main character is just barely surviving. Like one wrong decision and everything could just like tip into disaster.
I am a little mean to him, yeah.
Yeah, a little, a lot, yeah. He is not doing great. So, um, so let's just start us off. My first question, as always, when we see you in the wild, how would you like to be referred to? Sove, and Sove Writes is like your Royal Road handle. You've got AJ on the cover. What would you like us to refer to you as?
So AJ is a pen name. Drummond is my actual last name, but AJ is just a pen name that I took. It looked nice on page. My internet handle's Sov. I hate to correct your pronunciation there.
It's not the first time I've done it. I'm sorry. Sov.
It's incredibly silly. It's short for sovereign, which is when I was in 7th grade, I took that as my Steam handle when I first downloaded Steam, because I liked the main bad guy from Mass Effect 1. I didn't even know what the word meant at the time, because I was 13 or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I kept it throughout the years on Discord and stuff, and all of my friends just call me Sov online.
Okay. Sov. Alicia, I blame you for not correcting me.
It's okay. Alicia just calls me by my real name anyway, so
yeah, that's probably why.
I will not reveal here. People can probably find it pretty easily because it's the internet. But
yeah, no, you're good. Well, let's talk about Oathbreaker. You've got this world that's got a really long history, and it's post-war, like post-World War. Can you tell us a little bit about the factions in the world and just set the scene for everybody?
Yeah, so I don't want to go into all the different facets because some stuff doesn't actually get revealed until later books.
Yeah.
Because that's one of the things I wanted to do going in early, is I kind of wanted to pull back the veil on the settings, mysteries, naturally, like as they came up, rather than doing a lot of exposition.
Yeah, and I agree. You did a good job with it. I mean, as the main character is kind of moving through the world, it's like the fog of war is being revealed, and you're like, oh, there's ogres, or there's that's how ghosts interacts with people. Yeah,
It wasn't because I thought it was objectively better or anything. It's just it's a style that I like when I read, so I wanted to emulate it. But yeah, the main sort of setup of the setting is that about 10 years before our cold open, there was a big war. This is like a fantasy kingdom with like elves and ghosts and angels and demons and all this other stuff. A lot of classic fantasy tropes. And at the top of all of this was an elven king. Like he was kind of an immortal sort of like voice of the gods to humans. And 10 years before the story started, he was murdered. And there was a big civil war that came after it, in which all of the sort of noble houses of the land, who had always been kind of fractious and at each other's throats, kind of went into a big conflict that lasted for several years. It had vast repercussions politically, socially, supernaturally. Like it caused like I think I even mentioned in the first book how there's ash storms because parts of the kingdom are still on fire even after 10 years. That's because there were demons in the mix and like supernatural forces unleashed that shouldn't have been. And so it was devastating. And I don't want to call it post-apocalyptic because I think that's selling a different vibe than what's actually there. There is still functioning societies and stuff. But yeah, basically the idea is that in the wake of that big war, the accorded nations, which you can blame me for taking that word from Dresden Files too, because I like Dresden Files. It's probably pretty obvious at this point. The accorded nations, which are an alliance of a lot of the survivors who helped bring order back to the land are trying to rebuild. But there's still a whole bunch of threats. There's rebel lords and heretics and rogue demons and evil wizards and all this other stuff still roaming around. And our main character's job is to deliver sentences of execution, to basically prevent the world from falling back into another war and also punish those who caused it in the first place.
Yeah.
This is a job he hates, but he's stuck in it for plot reasons.
Yeah. So that brings us to Alken, who's our main character, and from like the church that exists in the world, he is an excommunicated paladin, but the choir of angels actually has him as their headsman, and so there's this like the real world arm of the church maybe isn't a fan of him, but the supernatural arm of the church does approve of what he's doing. So definitely a conflicting job assignment. You want to tell us a little bit about Alken and the thought behind having such a conflicted? I mean, he's in conflict with everybody.
He's in conflict with everybody. He's in
Yeah.
conflict with himself, most of all. Yeah, Alken is he is he's a complex guy, and a lot of that is because he, even with the audience, is not ready to reveal a lot about himself. He fought in that big war that I talked about before, and he has a deep sort of history tied to the sort of overarching conflicts of the setting itself. He used to be a paladin. He used to be a knight, in a very sort of classical fantasy sense. Like he has magical powers that were given to him through his oaths, his vows as a paladin, and he uses those to smite evil. The issue is that good and evil in this world are not. It's not a case of light, black, and white. The morality is very complicated, and even more so because of his job. Like as you mentioned, he's an excommunicate to the church that governs a lot of this land as sort of a theocracy, but the angels themselves are the ones who give him his orders. So like that's kind of one of the mysteries that I play with throughout a lot of the story is if the angels are giving him his orders, how come the church doesn't like him? And well, it's because like there's a separation of church and state, there's also kind of a separation of church and the ones behind even that. There's a lot of half truths and ancient mysteries that kind of tie this world together, and those get slowly picked apart across the entire series.
Yeah, I think what's interesting is, normally we think of paladin characters as just being very black and white as far as the morality of like what is good.
The joke of lawful stupid, common
right
in D&D groups and stuff.
Yeah, and the world and Alken himself really toe that line of gray, and even as like worldly as he is, he's still uncovering more gray in the world as the story progresses, which is just I love it. I love that teasing apart of like what's actually happening, what is actually evil, and what's not. So because he has magic and it's divine magic, and there's a lot of reasons. I don't think we know all of them, but his heavenly magic burns him to use. So you also kind of have this like built-in, Alken doesn't just become overpowered because he's a magic user in the world.
Yes, I was very cautious of that. I did not want to write a wish fulfillment or power fantasy. I don't have anything against that as a genre. A lot of people like that stuff. I can even indulge in that stuff sometimes. But I wanted to write a story about a tortured hero, not a happy hero. His powers hurt him to use. And the reason for that is because he was a paladin and he did some bad stuff. He failed in some pretty spectacular ways, and that caused a lot of harm to the setting that he's in as well. So that's kind of where the title Oathbreaker comes from. Is like a lot of this is based on. I'm a big D&D buff. I play a lot of D&D. I have for a lot of my life, and a lot of this story. I mean, like I kind of wear my influences on my sleeve. Alken is a paladin in the very classical D&D-esque sense, where He gets his powers from a set of vows and magical oaths that kind of like give him power, but they also encourage him to follow certain rules of conduct. Like he has to follow the letter of the laws of his own oaths in order to use his powers. But he broke those oaths before the story started. But those powers don't just, like, one of the things I went into early on was like, what about the idea that those powers don't just go away, but they get broken in some sort of fundamental way, where he still has them, but they are now turned against him, kind of like that smiting fire that he uses against demons now turned inward, hating him as much as it hates all of his enemies. And it just kind of adds to the same. I mean, like, a lot of people make jokes, so, like, I'm very mean to my main character. It kind of started early.
Yeah. Ooh, hold on. I lost the stage. Sorry, guys. There we go. That's
back.
what I meant to do. There we go. All right, victory. I was like, let's like blow us up so we can see our faces a little bit more. And keep questions coming, you guys. We got a couple comments. Alicia saying, I do love how the lore manifests naturally in the narrative. And yeah, that fog of war sort of like reveal as we go is really well done. And thanks for joining, Stacy. The cover is really cool. Stacy's like, the cover's really cool, and I'm like, click.
Everybody likes my cover. It's
yeah.
I like my cover.
Yeah. I like that the world not being black and white and the moral ambiguity that he's got to deal with also kind of is reflected within his powers, and it's not just like an on off. Like you break your oaths, you don't get power anymore. It's you break your oaths and your powers. You have this like self-torture sort of element. You can still use them for good, but there's gonna be this price. And yeah, it definitely helps negate any sort of like power fantasy aspect to it, because he can't just do whatever he wants and there'd be no internal repercussions for him. It's not just he's torturing himself with his consciousness, it's actually his powers doing it as well, which is fun. I mean,
he's haunted by his own magic. He's haunted by ghosts of people that he's failed and that he's killed. He's a very haunted character. I wanted a tormented protagonist. And I also wanted like, when I went into the web fiction space, I had a lot of different ideas. I spent a lot of years drafting different stories. And I was just, a lot of the decision making was like, what would I like to read in a serialized format where I'm coming back 2 or 3 times a week, to the same story? And I was like, well, I'd really like a character who has a deep history, like has kind of a back narrative that the audience isn't aware of, that gets shared over the course of the months or even the years that you're reading this web fiction. Because it's a slow form of storytelling, right? It's like you're coming back week to week, getting little tidbits of the story. And so when I was writing it, that's something that kept me interested in the plot myself, was being able to share more about this character that I made that I really liked with other people. Hasn't landed as well with everybody. Like, I've definitely had a lot of criticism on Royal Road especially, but I think a lot of people have come around to enjoying Alken as a character, which is all I can really ask.
Yeah, we're going to talk about Royal Road here in a little bit, because the medium is both amazing and terrible. But one more comment. I will say that, one of the repercussions to the world and Alken's history with it is that he ends up being this very distrusting sort of mindset. He's had people that he's trusted that he's failed, or they've failed him. You almost get the sense that he feels unworthy of feeling friendship and connection. And yet, he needs friends. He needs to be able to trust to go up against the big bad, because he's not, all powerful. And he's, there's some evil in the world that he can't beat by himself. And I feel like, again, this is one of those things that you did balance really well. This need for the connection, and also the distrust of it really well. There's multiple people that come into his sphere that he ends up having to trust, or can't quite bring himself to trust multiple times.
Yeah, it's I cannot remember. I'm sure I'm misquoting this. I can't remember who said it. It's another author that I've liked in the past, I'm sure. But another author that I have really enjoyed in the past said something along the lines of my favorite characters, the ones unsuited for the story that they're getting involved in.
Hmm.
And I've always kind of taken that to heart, is like what Alken is critically is Judge Dredd. He's a super magic cop who goes in and murders bad guys for breaking the law, or the rules, or angering the powers that be, or whatever the case is. Usually that would be a pretty unlikable character.
Hmm.
So what I did was Alken is a classical knight in shining armor. That's what he wants to be. And so he's in constant conflict between what he actually considers to be right and what he wants for himself and what the world wants for him. Because his job would be so much easier if he was cold, if he was hateful, if he was and just an angry, dark, gritty, grim dark. The kind of character you usually have in a grim dark story.
Yeah.
Which is why I don't label it as grim dark if I can avoid it, because it's dark fantasy. Um, but Alkin has a big issue with trust, and it's also because he does not really trust himself. And so there's kind of this constant back and forth throughout the entire story that I did very intentionally, where he he does not want to fall all the way into this darker persona of the headsman, but he's stuck in that job for reasons that are somewhat out of his control. And because of the way his magic works, because of the world, because of his own commitments and history, he can't just quit it. Or, well, if he did, bad things would happen.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I think too, there's these moments where his inability to trust hurt the people around him, and and that also there's these moments of like, dang, even when I even when I'm trying not to hurt people, like I'm trying not to trust and hurt, and like I'm doing it.
yeah, I think he
Yeah.
often comes off as kind of a jerk throughout the story, which was intentional on my part, because I was like, how do other people perceive this guy? Like, we're getting his internal monologue all the time, but nobody
Yeah.
else is. To everybody else, he's kind of an asshole.
I think I
So I
think
wanted that to come through.
Yeah, I mean, I think to most of the people in the book, he's probably an asshole, but to the reader, he's not, because you're getting the conflicted inner monologue, right? And you're
Mhm.
understanding why he's not trusting. So it's just a good way to show he's just a good character. I mean, I'm
Oh,
rooting
thank you.
for him to get over himself, to make a friend or two.
I have a lot of readers who don't start rooting for him until they're in like book 3, 4, or 5. So I'm like, whenever
Really?
someone gets on him on the first book, where they're like, "I'm on Team Malcolm," I'm like, "Really?" I'm surprised, because that's
You're
the
like,
kind of way
"What's wrong with you?"
that's where he's at his worst. But that's
Yeah.
okay. I mean, that I appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, you just, yeah, I don't know. And from my perspective, and Alicia, I know maybe you can give us your perspective too, but um,
Alicia has seen every twisted, half-baked precursor to the story under the sun, so she's
yeah,
she's probably like, "What version of Alken is this even?"
yeah, probably. Like, I liked him in version 5.6, but yeah. Um, okay, so audience, feel free to throw in some questions for us. If you've got anything, pop them in and we'll get to them. Let's kind of flip over from talking about the story though to talking about your experience on Roller Road. Um, so you said, I think we talked a little bit before the show. You launched in 2022. Is that correct?
I launched in it's been 13 months, the last
Okay.
time I checked, so about 2, or not 13, sorry, 23 months, so about 2 years.
Okay.
Um, so I started on the original draft of Oathbreaker in 2022 January, and it's very different from what everyone's reading now. It was a self-indulgent thing. I was struggling with my writing. I was struggling with motivation.
Hmm.
I did not know what I was doing. I just dropped a project I've been working for a couple of years on. So I
Had your writing that you've done before, it sounds like you've written for a long time. Your writing that you've done before, had you published it or put it on Railroad or shared it in any sort of
No,
like
with
okay.
friends, but it was mostly just I was doing it as a hobby. I was doing it to improve because I wanted to be good at it before I shared it with people.
Mhm.
But I started on the original draft of Oathbreaker in 2022, and then I worked on it for a couple of years, trying to just figure out like what was the story I'm actually telling. I need to know what I'm doing first. And so eventually I was like, I'm just going to keep doing this forever unless I actually put it in front of people and commit to this thing. So I shopped around. I did not know anything about Railroad going in. I just Googled, like, what are good places to put a fantasy story on the internet? I started out with a WordPress and like I couldn't get anyone to read my WordPress. So I was like,
Yeah.
I need to actually do this correctly. So I saw people saying, yeah, Railroad has like it's mostly for lit RPG, but there's like a there's people who read like classic fantasy on there too. So it's like that's
Mhm.
fine. I don't need a big audience. I don't care. I'll put it on Railroad. The interface seems good. It's all easy to use. And I guess the rest is history. I committed to a posting schedule. I started out with 3 chapters a week. I did that until summer of 2025, where my life circumstances just made it untenable. So
Mhm.
now I'm at 2 chapters a week, and I'm still releasing 2 chapters every week.
Yeah.
I do not miss my posting commitments.
Yeah.
There's times between arcs where I'll take a break to plan out the next section and kind of refresh. But I started, a couple of years back, and I've kept it up since then.
It's crazy how quickly like the chapters just stack up when you're posting 2, 3 chapters a week. Like, 3 months later, you're like, wow, I've got a book or two
Yeah, I
done.
think that
Yeah.
first one, I think I had that first one out in like 5 weeks.
Yeah.
Um, but it's been really good for my productivity. I care about this story. I probably would have dropped the story a long time ago if I hadn't had this posting commitment and people, commenting,
Mhm.
giving me feedback. Um, like I hate to say it, but I kind of need the validation at times. Like I like to write for myself, but also I get tunnel vision. I'm like, there's times where it's not fun. And I think that's true of every creative. But I think having other people that I'm kind of beholden to, even if it's just, you know, text on the internet in my comment section, um, helps keep me motivated because I know that there's people who have committed to the character that I've made, and that helps keep me committed to it as well.
Yeah.
I care about this guy, but also you gotta you gotta have something to kind of keep you going.
I'll admit that's something I didn't expect. Like in my brain, like pre putting books out there, my like I want to be an author someday brain did not think that fans would have such an impact on like sitting at a keyboard and start, like it's not that I didn't expect to have fans or, want that or whatever. I just there's so much impact that people on road commenting or just in, leaving reviews or whatever. There's so much impact that has to just the desire to get there and write, especially when you're doing serial format. I mean, serial's hard because it's just a long grind, right?
It is very grindy. There's times where I'm like, where am I even going with this plot anymore? Because I've been working on, the same sequence for 6, 7 weeks now.
Mhm.
But eventually you make through it, and you get some really satisfying moments. I'll tell you what I did not expect was just the people who kind of dryly leave like editing comments, like, "Hey, you misspelled this word." I'm
Yeah.
like, I appreciate that so much. You're doing so much work for me.
Yeah.
'Cause I know some
Yeah.
authors get mad about it. They're like, where do these people get off? But I
Yeah.
love those comments. Those are my favorite ones.
I don't know if they're my favorite ones, but I definitely appreciate them too, and I actually give reputation anytime somebody has, like, an editing comment, I'm like, "Oh, I'm gonna give you some reputation points."
Unless you're being rude to me, I'll give everybody reputation. But the editing comments are my favorite ones
Yeah.
because like it's the way I see it is they are taking their time to help improve the reading experience for people who haven't gotten that far yet.
Mhm.
And I consider that pretty cool. Um,
And as somebody who's left editing comments for other authors, out there, it is not the easiest interface to leave an editing comment in, so
I have not done it myself, so I did not know that, but I'll keep
yeah,
that in mind. That makes me appreciate it even more.
yeah, yeah. Well, Alicia has a question here for us. She wants to know how far are you in the story arc? And how long will the series be?
That is a very good question. I do not know. The real answer is I kind of have a vague idea of where I'm going. Like I know sort of where I want the story to end up. I know like certain character and plot beats I want to hit, but I do not make strict outlines for my story. I want to call myself a pantser because I have a direction, but I kind of just I'm just
So you're like
pouring
a
water.
pantser with signposts.
I'm pouring water downhill. Eventually, it's going to get where I want it to go, but I don't know how it's going to meander down that way.
Yeah.
But it's like
I like that.
it's I would say as far as how far I am, maybe I'm about a little over 1 million words as far as the Royal Road draft is.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say maybe halfway. But it's
Okay.
also because I've digressed a lot. Like I expected to be further along at this point,
Yeah.
but also like there's side characters and side plots and stuff that I end up getting wrapped in for months at a time. It's just how web fiction goes. Like I do not write a whole bunch and then release it ahead of time. I'm writing chapters and then releasing them a couple days later.
Okay. That's what I
So
was going to ask, is if you had much of a backlog. It doesn't sound like it.
sometimes I get a backlog, but it dries up pretty quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually just posted, I like pre-scheduled everything I've got at this point. I'm like, well, I've got like a week for my Patreon and like 2 weeks for Royal Road. I gotta get writing.
I think part of it is also that my story has gotten so long and the plot's so convoluted that, and there's also so many characters involved that I go through before I post a chapter, I will reread and do an editing run of the chapter probably 6 or 7 times. I'll read it out to myself aloud every single time I'm doing it. I will check back. I'll scroll back through dozens and dozens of other chapters. I'll reread stuff that I wrote months or even years ago because I want to be consistent and I want my story to make sense. So I'm a little bit of a perfectionist. I think that's part of the reason I don't have a backlog is because I just spend so
Yeah,
much of my
time to have a
time.
backlog. Yeah.
Yeah, I just spend so much of my time editing.
I will say I do. I mean, so I am like 250,000 words in. I hit the 250,000 word mark last week, and I do worry,
That's a big
like
mark. It's like 2 books right there.
yeah, yeah, it is, yeah. But I worry about keeping consistency as a thing, right? Because there's this point where you've got like so much work out there. There's so much story and detail, and your books in particular. I mean, a very detailed world, and how things interact and dynamics. You're not juggling a lit RPG system, but still, there's a lot of just lore that you
I've
have to
heard
keep
that
track
can
of.
be difficult.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm like, I keep thinking like, when is,
Because I've read some lit RPG, and when I'm doing it, I'm like, how do they keep track of all
yeah,
this stuff?
yeah. It's spreadsheets, very painful spreadsheets at this point. Um, Yeah. I think that if I had a wish for like uh I need like a person in my life that knows all my own lore, because I just can't keep. I need somebody else to ask like, "Hey, Brian helps me out a little bit, but like in general, it's yeah, I don't know." But
My
at a million
revised
words, I can't even imagine.
sorry,
No, go ahead.
my revised edition was a big because I've turned in my first 3 arcs to the publisher. The original drafts of those were not very consistent. I
Mhm.
eventually kind of landed at a point where I've been writing this for so long that I kind of know everything as far as like proper nouns, who's connected to who in politics or religion or whatever.
Mhm.
The first 3 arcs, I think I used a different name for the kingdom that Alken was born in 6 or 7 different times. It was
Yeah.
not consistent. So
Yeah.
the revised versions I turned in the publisher, I cleaned those up, made them consistent with later arcs. Um, and
Yeah.
that was important.
I have some of that problem at like some of my drafts. Like I've got this city name that I, for the life of me, cannot remember how I spell it, and I think it's spelled like 6 different ways.
Sometimes I'll just have to go to old chapters. I'll reread entire like half an arc in a couple days and just be like, okay, what actually happened here? Because I
Yeah,
kind of wrote that in a fugue state, like while I was, struggling to pay for groceries. So
yeah, yeah. Well, Stacy here has a question for us. She says, "I'm fairly new to Royal Road. How far ahead of posting on Royal Road do you write? I felt books were mostly written and dropped chapters to garner a following." Um, Yeah, and I'll let you talk to you. We can talk about that in a general sense.
That's a good question because I know it's different for a lot of different people. We just
Mhm,
before the stream started, we were talking about the Royal Road meta, which I had no idea what that was for a long time. And I'm definitely not writing to it myself.
mhm,
But a lot of Royal Road authors will go in with a really specific action plan before they start posting. Like they'll write
mhm.
like an entire book. They'll keep a bunch of chapters behind on a Patreon so that people who want to read ahead will subscribe to their Patreon, and they'll just release chapters on a set schedule after they've already finished to get a following, and then they'll go to Kindle Unlimited. It's a really set, tried and true process. I did
Mhm.
not do that. I didn't know what I was doing when I go in, and I'm still posting on Royal Road just because I have a story I want to tell and finish. Um, it really depends on what you want to do. I just wanted to write a web serial.
I think it also depends on just uh if you I mean, because some people just don't have the time or the ability to plan that far ahead. Or like they've got their story and they're just kind of burning to get it out. So, um, but do you have a Patreon? Are you
I
chapters ahead on a
do.
Patreon?
I do. The Patreon is mostly just a tip jar. I do not
Yeah.
release chapters ahead of time. That's just like if I was gonna do it, I would have started it early. Now, if I do it, it'll kind of feel like I'm cheating a lot of people who are used to my schedule as it is.
Yeah.
And the story is going to get published eventually anyway and be stuck behind a paywall there. So it's just kind of like I hate to call it an ethics thing, but it's just like I might in the future do it that way, but I feel like I need to start doing it that way at the beginning because consistency is important. So
Yeah.
I have a Patreon. Whenever Tafuyi or another artist does like a new commission for me, I'll, with permission from the artist, usually share it on there. Usually for everybody, both, free and paid
Mhm.
patrons. I only have like 7 paid patrons on there, but I have like 50 people on there who just want to keep up with news. So like I'll put like milestones like, hey, I got published today. That was on my Patreon.
Yeah.
And then also people will eventually get early access to new projects. Like if I start a new story, it'll go on the Patreon first. I haven't done that yet. Eventually I will have the time to do that.
Dun, dun, dun. Yeah. I personally I did not write the book. I didn't do that either. I've been writing as I've been going. I do have Patreon like 2 to 6 chapters ahead of Royal Road in any given day, and Patreon is normally the place that's like the rawest. Like that's where I'm at. Wherever Patreon's at, that's kind of where I'm at. But or it's certainly where I'm at as far as like the edited version that I'm gonna post is like Patreon's getting it when I edit it and post it. I might have a couple other chapters out, but
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
The versions
Sometimes,
that I
yeah.
sorry.
Go ahead.
The versions that I throw onto Royal Road have gone through a number of different editing runs from me to make sure they're
Mhm.
consistent and they read well.
Yeah.
I have considered just throwing my immediate, like, I just wrote this, throw it onto Patreon if people want to give me feedback and stuff while I'm editing. But then people are seeing the inconsistencies. They're seeing the thing where, like, I had a
Yeah.
character say a dumb thing that, like, I caught later that doesn't make any sense. And it's like, that gets me really anxious. The
Well,
idea of that.
and Railroad's nice and fans are nice, but they also can be merciless. Like there's a certain segment of Railroad authors that are like, yeah, I just put on my raw stuff, and maybe they're just better writers than I am, but um, you know, the Railroad audience can be kind of unforgiving if you put stuff up that's inconsistent or,
There's
you,
definitely some the mean
yeah.
commenters on there. I
Hmm.
had before I stubbed it. There was a point where I was calling Arc 1 my testing ground. Like if you got through Arc 1, that means you probably are into what I'm writing. I had pages and pages of comments from people who were like, "Your protagonist can't even beat an old man and a nun. He's useless. He could never accomplish anything of worth. He's the dumbest character I've ever read in my life." Um, he,
Yeah.
you know, like I had a lot of people angry that Alken didn't murder that literal child in the first couple of chapters. Just
Yeah.
the internet has all sorts.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, it's yeah, if you are ever thinking about being a road author, you should absolutely develop a thick skin, because for all the goodness that people's comments and stuff, and there are really good people that are commenting and providing helpful feedback, there's also just this like troll element that you just gotta know is out there, and
Yeah.
you're gonna encounter him, and you just gotta you just gotta deal with it. So
It's the
I
public
think,
internet, so it's just gonna be how it is. I think it's a
yeah.
skill that every writer, every creative should develop, is being able to separate the good faith criticism from the bad faith criticism,
Mhm.
and also
Yep.
knowing that you agree with the criticism before you implement it into your own writing.
Yeah, I think good faith versus bad faith criticism is absolutely a key to it. And also just uh, not not letting the bad faith stuff in, because it's not going to help your writing. It's not going to help your psyche, right? Um, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we've got a few more questions. Well, Stacy says, "Bitchy comments make me want to read it more." I love you,
I've
Stacy.
had that when I'll go onto Reddit because I want to find a new book to read, and I'll find people complaining about something in a book that I'm
Hmm.
passively interested in. I'm like, the stuff that they're saying is a bad thing is actually stuff that I like the idea of, so I'll go actually read that. Yeah,
Hmm.
I think it's just like, you know, it's just a valuable skill on the internet, I think, is being able to separate your own opinions from other people's opinions.
Hmm. Yeah, I got a review in mine, which is it's kind of like a buddy comedy sort, and they're like off topic banter ruins the plot. And I was like, I mean, yeah, that's fair. I'll do
Yeah,
it.
but it's also believable, you know?
Yeah.
It's like you want the dialogue to feel real.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Um, so we've got a question for Alicia. She wants to know, what advice would you give a new writer or writers that feel stuck?
Writers who feel stuck. That's good because it's going to be different from everybody or for everybody. Um, Oftentimes, if I'm really struggling on a scene, I'll just I'll just say some baloney. I'll just make some stuff happen, and I'll figure out how it goes. A lot of times, I've had enormous twists in my story that I did not expect just because I needed the plot to move forward. I think if you understand your characters and you understand the things that you want them to go through, you can usually find something meaningful to say, even if it's off topic. Do not be afraid of going off topic in your plot,
Mm-hmm.
because you can always course correct. You can always cut things when you're doing your second drafts. However, if you're really stuck on the, what you call it, like the writer's block, I know it's a cliche to say, reading is exercise for writers, or any form of creativity. I would say sometimes when I'm struggling on my writing, I'll draw. I'll do another form of art. I'll pick up a new book. I'll play a new video game. I'll binge watch, Better Call Saul or some other drama. Um, that's one of my favorite binge watch shows because it's really easy to watch.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, just intake new media. Always be intaking new media, because if your inner reserves of creativity are dry, there's nothing that's going to be able to go on the page.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great advice. I definitely have seen folks just get stuck and they spin, and it seems like the more obsessive you get about it, like the less likely you are to break through in that moment. Just the to your point, the taking that step back and doing something else, and taking other creative vehicles. Absolutely. Um,
Sunlight is
I'll
important.
yeah. I was gonna say one of my go-tos is to go for a hike with Alicia.
Yeah,
You
I have
know?
a strip mall near where I live with a coffee shop and a bookstore that I really like. So
Mhm.
every week, on my day off, I will go to that coffee shop. I will sit with my tablet. I will write for an hour and a half or so while I drink coffee and get myself woken up, and then I will walk a couple miles around this entire shopping area. And
Yeah.
then when I'm tired or when it's getting dark, I'll go back home and I'll write some more.
Yeah. Yeah, physical exercise, getting outside. I'd like to garden. I'll go out and be gardening and doing something that makes me feel like I'm accomplishing something, even if it's not writing, chores or whatever. So, yeah, I love it. Good questions, everybody. I've got a new question that I'm going to be asking authors because I love this question. I want to hear, what is your favorite thing about your series?
That is a tough question because it changes arc to arc. But I would say I managed to bring in a cast of characters who I like most of them. I like my characters. I write the characters that I like writing. If I don't like writing them, they don't stick around. They get killed or booted off screen. And I just like a lot of my story is it's a high fantasy pulpy action schlocky deal, right? Like I'm not trying to break the mold or anything. But some of my favorite stuff to write is just when the characters are interacting with each other, just talking, even if it's not about something important.
Mhm.
Just I don't want to spoil because a lot of my extended cast does not come in until later books, but
I was
like
going to ask in a non-spoily way if some of the people we've met in book one reappear.
I mean, I'll just go ahead and say Katrin because I love
Yeah.
writing Katrin. She's one of my favorite characters because
She was one of my favorite characters too. I'm glad.
her tone is very different from Alken's because Alken is a very sad, very depressed guy. He's very depressed about himself, about the world, and that can get. I mean, I'm also a depressed guy. Like I'll admit that, and so it can get really um, kind of sad to be in his head a lot of the time. But then characters like Katrin and some of the other people who come in later in the series, they help bring out elements of his character that would not otherwise come out. If everybody was serious like him, if everybody was a space marine from Warhammer 40K, I think that the story would just kind of always stick to the same tone, and that would get really dry after a while.
Hmm.
Characters like Katrin and some others bring out elements of both my own writer's voice and also elements of the protagonist himself that would not otherwise be visible.
Hmm.
Like, not everyone in this, even though it's a very serious, very dark world, a lot of the times, not everyone in the world has to take it seriously all the time. Our real world is very dark and very grim a lot of the times, but we still do
We
goofy
still have
things, and
moments of joy, and yeah.
I'll still go rewatch Samurai Jack for the millionth time. It's like I feel like that would be true in any setting, even the darkest fantasy setting. People are still living their lives,
Hmm.
and so I think that focusing on that element has both improved me as a writer and is also something I keep going back to.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. It's like the other characters in a lot of ways just kind of sheds light on different aspects of that person's personality and like draws him out, and yeah, I love it. I am excited to read more of the series. I've only read book one so far, but I'm looking forward to seeing that too.
Well, I have good news, which is that book two is coming out in April, so pretty quickly.
Excellent. Okay, so that was going to be one of my next questions. We're kind of at the last 5 minutes or so, but so what's next? Book two, you said, is coming out April. Is that all formats? Is that
Yes. So as far as I know, Podium is going to be doing all formats simultaneously for each one. We've only got the first three scheduled, but the first three are coming out all this year. I don't remember the month for the third one off the top of my head. I
okay?
just turned in the copy edit for that yesterday. But book two is slated for April 28th. It's going to be ebook, paperback, and audio. Same deal with Raphael narrating it.
Awesome.
I've already listened to the audiobook for the second one. They gave me early access MP3s. So it was really good. I think it
Nice.
even improved over the first one in some ways. But if you're really impatient, the web fiction is there. It's all free. It's all on Royal Road. It will be until each part is stubbed and turned. Each arc is going to be released as a separate book. I wrote them as books like that in the first place because I was emulating serialized fiction like Dresden Files and stuff.
So how many arcs do you have written on Roll Road right now?
8. I'm on arc 8 right now. It's going to be wrapping up here pretty soon, probably in the next few weeks. And I usually do volumes on Royal Road just because it's a good way to organize parts of the story. I usually have 3 arcs per volume. Arc 9 is going to fill out volume 3. And then I think I might have 2 more after that at most.
Nice. All right. So if you're doing the audiobooks and the like Kindle side of it, not Roll Road, we're just getting started.
Yes, you guys
Yeah.
are I mean, it's an eighth of what I have out right now, and a lot of the other later arcs are longer by a good margin too. So
Okay, so for the audience here, how much difference is there between what's published on Royal Road versus what Podium's putting out?
much more polished. The stuff on Royal Road was basically a first draft. I think that's true for a lot of web fiction authors. It went through a full revision by me just for consistency in voice and narrative stuff. Podium did 2 different editing runs as far as at least that I saw. So they did like a copy edit where they just caught like a whole bunch of like grammar and syntax errors and stuff.
Mhm.
And then they do a proofread where they make sure the plot and like word use and terminology and all that stuff is consistent.
Yeah.
So the stuff that gets released is very polished compared to what's on Royal Road, but I wouldn't say the plot is significantly different in any way.
Yeah, that's fair. All right, now if I am an AJ fan, where can I find you online? Is it Discord, Facebook? Should I Royal Road message you?
Well, I'm in a few places. I'm on Blue Sky and Instagram. I don't do social media too well. I'm not very active, but I do updates in those 2 places, and then also I've got my Patreon, and then also on Royal Road. If you like you're keeping up on chapters, I'll usually put what's going on in my life in the author's notes.
Okay,
So
sweet.
if you want regular updates, I also have a Discord, though it's still kind of small. It's just for people who are caught up on the story or the published version of the book.
So a bit of spoilers in the Discord, potentially.
I keep it in certain channels, but that is something to be aware of.
Yeah.
But all of the art that I've had commissioned for the story, which is a pretty big catalog at this point, maps, things like that, it's all in that Discord. But also social media, Blue Sky and Instagram, I go by Sovrights in both of those places, just like I do on Royal Road. So it's my username SOV and then the word rights. You should be able to find me pretty easily that way. Although I try to link all of my socials in every space that I'm in. So
Yeah.
I've got a link tree. I can probably throw that somewhere. True. It's got all my
Definitely.
links in there.
Yeah, absolutely. If not, message it to me and I'll share it. Sometimes StreamYard's a little goofy at link sharing.
For sure.
Yeah. All right.
I'll do that.
Two more questions. First, you mentioned Dragon Con last year. I don't think you have any con scheduled. Like, is there any like physical book signings, anything that's going on that people can catch you in person at?
Nothing that I have scheduled. Traveling is a little difficult for me because I mean, as of right now, because I'm so early in my career, I don't make a ton of money off the writing. So I have a day job. I've had it for 10 years now. So that takes up 40 hours of my time at least every week. That's if I'm not doing overtime, which I usually am. So getting time away from that job is difficult. I went to Dragon Con last year, but I don't know what this year is going to look like. I don't have anything scheduled at the moment, but if I do, I will. I'll probably just tell you. If you
Yeah,
want to
yeah.
like put it anywhere else, you can.
That's fair. That's fair. And then we have you and I were talking about Pop Pop. He's a friend of mine. And I ask every author this: if you had a like not your book, but a different book that you were going to recommend to Pop Pop to read and put on his TBR, what would it be?
I have 2. If you want stuff that's like influential to my writing that I've
Yeah.
liked over the years, because yeah, actually, I think I expected this question, so I had these ready to go. So it's fairly new. It just came out like in the last like 5-6 years, I think. But there's a fantasy trilogy, very classic fantasy, written by Gareth Hanrahan called "The Lands of the Firstborn." Starts with the Sword Defiant. Really love those books. They were kind of like a sleeper hit for me. Like I'd never heard of this guy before. Very classic deal, but also started reading it around the same time I started on the web fiction game. And I'm not going to lie, I think the main character from those books was probably pretty influential on Alken as I was developing him, even though I started writing him well before I read those books.
Mhm.
But it's about a member of he's like in his 40s, he's like middle aged, but he used to be a member of an adventuring band who killed the Dark Lord and saved the world. Very classic kind of like D&D party or even a Tolkien-esque setup. It wears its influences on its sleeve.
Mhm.
But it's about the aftermath. Like 20 years have passed since that big villain was defeated, and now the heroes who defeated him have kind of inherited the world that he created. They become like leaders and important characters in politics, and they've all sort of changed over time and not always in the best of ways. And the author is on record saying that he wrote that during COVID while he was missing his friends. And that's very, you can feel that in the main character, because even when his friends are doing bad things and not being the best of people, he's so loyal to them, and he is himself is such a flawed character. And it's a very emotional story in a lot of places. I really liked it. Also just a really cool setting. The other one is the Trader Sun Cycle, which is an older book series, not crazy old, but I really liked it. Over the last decade.
Is that Sun, S-U-N, S-O-N?
The Trader Sun, I think it's S-O-N, like someone's child.
Okay.
It starts with the Red Knight. It's a 5-book series. It's kind of like military fantasy, but it's about like knights and dragons and monsters, and it's got like a lot of like Arthurian stuff mixed in with some like really interesting twists on the tropes. It's kind of like a pet favorite of mine. I wouldn't say they're the best books in the world, but I like them a lot. I really like that guy's writing style, and I've emulated a lot of his voice, I think.
Yeah.
So those are 2 that he might not be aware of, as long as if he wants stuff similar to what I'm already writing.
Love it. I haven't read either one of those, so I'm excited to put them on my TBR as well.
Yes, I would say I would more recommend the Gareth Hanrahan books. They're a little bit easier to get into, and so it's also only 3 of them. Trader Sun is like an older, meatier series that I listen to the audiobooks a lot because I really like the narrator for him.
Yeah, no, that's fair. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me, Sav. It's been a pleasure. I really enjoyed your book. Go pick it up, you guys, if you haven't already. I just want to do a couple last call outs for me. My next podcast is going to be on Friday with Ryan Maxwell. We're going to talk about Grand System Vending, which is the only lit RPG that my spouse Jen read before I did. So it's going to be good. This is launch week for me, so I'm going to be on with Richie tomorrow, Joel
Congratulations.
on Friday. Thank you. Yeah. So I'll be on with Richie and Joel this week, and then Pop next week. Jeremy and I will be talking with Joel on Friday, and then we'll do a live TikTok Friday night. So if you're around, join us on TikTok. It'll be fun. But yeah.
Thank you so much for having me. It was pretty relaxed.
Yeah. Good. Got a podcast that's relaxing under your belt. Yeah. Check.
Yeah. Well, it's my first experience of it, so it's like I don't know how to compare, but it was pretty nice. I liked it. Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for staying on, and thanks for being here. All right, everybody, have a good night. I'll see you on Friday. Thanks, guys.